Have you ever finished your day feeling like you were busy the whole time, but somehow didn't actually finish anything important? I've been there, spinning my wheels, jumping from answering emails to messaging on Teams, to trying to write something meaningful, then being pinged by a notification, and before you know it, the day's gone, and all I've got is a bunch of half-finished tasks to show for it and a tired brain. Today, I want to talk about 2 productivity habits I've been trying to implement in my day-to-day work: batching your work and avoiding constant task switching. If you want to reclaim your focus, get more done, and end your day with that sense of accomplishment instead of exhaustion, then stick with me. There's actually some really interesting science behind how these 2 habits can literally supercharge your productivity. I'll share what I've learned, plus some extremely practical tips, and one pretty weird fact you've probably never heard of. So first things first, multitasking is not a superpower. I used to think if I could juggle a little bit of everything, clicking between tabs, swapping from spreadsheets to YouTube to WhatsApp, I'd somehow be able to maximize my productivity. I couldn't be more wrong. So here's the surprising truth. When we switch between tasks, our brain actually pays a tax each time. This isn't just a metaphor. Neuroscientific research shows that after every switch, there's something called attention residue. Our brain lingers on the previous task, so even as you open up that new document, part of your mind is still stuck thinking about the email you just read. According to the American Psychological Association, you can lose up to 40% of your productive time just from the mental blocks created by constantly shifting gears. That means that if you work an 8-hour day, you could be losing over 3 hours to switching costs. And the kicker? It takes on average 23 minutes for your brain to get back into deep focus, even after a short interruption. When was the last time you actually had 23 distraction-free minutes at work? Let me know in the comments if you can relate. Because I think honestly, the answer for most of us is almost never. Okay, so if we're constantly task switching, what's the cure? Something I came across recently is called batching. Batching is basically just grouping similar tasks together and knocking them out in dedicated time blocks. For example, instead of replying to every email the second it pings, you check and answer all your emails from 11 to 11:30 a.m. or 4 to 4:30 p.m. for example. Or maybe you plan all your meetings for one afternoon, leaving your mornings totally open for focused work. It's something I'm actually aiming to do with YouTube. Instead of just recording one video at a time, I want to try and batch record instead. You can easily then record 4 or 5 videos in a row and get it all done in a single afternoon. It would save a lot of time for all of the setup. And also what I found is that when you get in the zone, it gets so much easier, the words just start to flow. Studies show that batching reduces procrastination and mental fatigue because you're not constantly starting and stopping. You actually build momentum and focus. Dr. Sahar Yusuf, a cognitive neuroscientist, says that our brains literally work better when focusing on one thing at a time. So if you're trying to multitask, that's a myth. The brain simply can't handle multiple tabs as well as you think. If you want proof that batching works, there's a lot of data to show it. Research from Stanford University found that multitasking can drop productivity by up to 40%. That's almost half of your work output gone. Every time you flip from one task to another, your brain has to reset itself. This reset isn't free. It burns energy, increases your chances of making mistakes, and weirdly enough, it lowers your creativity and decision-making skills. You feel exhausted, even if you haven't actually ticked off much on your list. And here's that weird fact I promised. There's something called the Zeigarnik Effect. Researchers found that when you leave a task unfinished and switch to something else, your brain keeps remembering the old task, even if you want to focus on something new. This lingering mental clutter can seriously mess with your performance on the next thing, and it also creates a backlog of mental tabs you never close. So if you've ever laid awake at night, running through your to-do list, that's the Zeigarnik Effect in action. Okay, so how can you actually put batching into your routine? There's a few things. Firstly, identify similar tasks. So think about emails, admin, creative work, calls, try and group them together. What you can also do is set specific time blocks, so use your calendar. Reserve 30 to 60 minutes for each batch. Another thing to do would be to limit distractions, mute any notifications, close unused tabs, let co-workers know you're in deep work mode. And also, I think it's important to stick to the plan. It feels a bit strange at first. I get a bit twitchy when I start ignoring emails for a whole hour, but if you stick with it, it gets a bit easier. And then finally, review and adapt. So after a week, check in. Do you feel more focused? Are you getting more done? You can always tweak your batches as needed. And here's a little extra motivation. So people who consistently batch their tasks often find their work becomes both better and faster. They actually gain hours of free time each week. Some even report turning Fridays into a day off because they've become so efficient. Imagine what you could do with an extra free day. If you're willing to give this a shot, try it for just 1 week and let me know in the comments how it goes. Alright, so wrapping up, here's the takeaway. Productivity isn't about doing more stuff. It's about doing the right stuff in the right way, with fewer interruptions and more focus. If you batch your work and fight the urge to switch constantly, you can finally work in flow, that magical state when hours fly by and your best work gets done. So next time you feel busy but not productive, pause and ask yourself, am I jumping from one thing to another, or am I finishing what matters? Batch your work this week. Avoid the multitasking trap, and you might just be amazed at how much more you can get done and how much less stressed you feel. If you found this helpful, hit like and subscribe, and drop a comment below with your favorite productivity tip. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.